Let's explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to Why We Vote. Ash, how you doing this Friday?
Friday the 13th, Brian.
Not only is it Friday the 13th, it is the second Friday the 13th in a row.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we had a Friday the 13th.
February, March, it's always that way, isn't it?
It is. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to get weird.
It's going to get very, well, it's already getting weird. A little bit nervous because.
Are you concerned that I can't talk for 90 minutes? Because
we were supposed to have a guest
really
and they
not
on us. They just ghosted us completely. So
tonight the conversation is why we vote. Somebody get G-Money in here.
Yeah. There we go. Call him up and be like, get on here.
G-Money, get Alpha in here. Well, Alpha be too easy. He's on our side.
Oh man!
Alpha takes it way farther than I do. I don't think that anybody should be compelled to vote.
For those that don't know what we're talking about here, if you didn't watch if you don't have your GART live stream tickets and you didn't get to watch the shenanigans, then I don't know what to tell you.
You missed out because it was fiery but mostly peaceful. G-Money is still bent out of shape about it because he's posting like follow-up posts. And we had a heated debate in line with the spirit of GART. It is the GART exclusive live stream. So you have to be a ticket holder in person or virtual to attend these. If you buy your virtual ticket, you'll get access to all the ones that already happened. So it's not like it happened and oh my gosh, you'll never see it again. No, you get an archive of all of them. You get access to the Telegram chat. You get to interact with the panels at GART. And GART is, it kind of has already started because once we start the live streams, we're shaping the agenda together. And we have some of the most fun conversations in those GART live stream chats or the virtual exclusive live streams, because a lot of us don't do regular shows together. And that's kind of the fun of GART too, is that Brian and I do a ton of shows together. And at GART, we get to argue with other people. Yes. And on the GART exclusive live streams, we got real heated yesterday. It was all about voting. All shows are why we vote now. Every single show. All us. Asawavna. Yes. And everybody should get their GART tickets. GART, badlandsmedia.tv/events, April 9th through the 12th. We will be in Nashville, Tennessee. There will be line dancing and karaoke and all manner of shenanigans. Gordon will have a calendar made by the end of the weekend. I'm certain of it. And it'll be a blast, an absolute blast. So get your tickets and join us. And then join us next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for the next GART live stream. Who knows what we'll argue about then? Maybe the financial system. Maybe something we haven't even thought of yet. It's going to be great.
All right. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. Get them before March 15th to get your special deal. Then they go back to their normal price after that. And all right,
and Sheila says in the chat, the GART 11 Telegram chat is fire also. It really is. It's good. This is going to be our spiciest GART yet, I think. There's we did the first 10. Now we're starting the second 10. And we're next leveling.
I'm starting to think that I don't know, maybe I'm about to get fired or something because I haven't gotten my invites to the chats or anything yet. I had to get the link from somebody else. So
you just don't check Telegram, Brian. This is the same reason why you have no idea what's going on with the jury experience.
I don't have notifications on Telegram, but I check Telegram.
Okay. You have to actually read the posts to be informed though.
Yeah. They only let me pin 5 groups, and I'm not reading all the rest of that shit.
I need folders. You need to set folders.
Maybe this weekend I am going to audit my Telegram and get out of all these stupid groups from back in the day.
I love that idea. I might do that too. There's a bunch of stuff, and I just end up swiping to make them red. Just mark them red, mark them red, mark them red. Stuff that I no business being in anyway.
All right. Well, let's talk about Goldco.
Okay, let's talk about Goldco. It is officially a new era for gold and silver. Gold has broken 5,000 an ounce, and silver has surged past $100 in 2025 alone. 54%, while silver skyrocketed 150%. And with political and economic uncertainty ahead, 2026 could bring even bigger moves. After such a historic run, a pullback is normal. Metals move fast, so some consolidation is expected, but top analysts are calling for even higher prices. We've seen the first bank failure of 2026 with regulators shutting down Metropolitan Capital Bank and Trust in Chicago. Could more follow? It's no surprise Americans are pulling money from banks and turning to the proven protection of gold and silver. Big news, Goldco is celebrating America's 250th birthday with a limited time bonus. Get up to 10% free gold or silver plus free storage and a free home safe with qualifying cash purchase. This offer won't last, so act now. Are we seeing the early signs of another 2008 style crisis? Don't wait for the next shoe to drop. Protect your wealth with precious metals because in uncertain times, gold and silver shine the brightest. Visit badlandsgold.com today for your free 2026 gold and silver kit and your bonus buy. That's badlandsgold.com.
Right. And you know what? I got what I was looking for, but again, man, this is going to be a rough one. We're gonna have to.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Would you stop negotiating against us, Brian?
I am setting the audience up. So
dare you?
So when we kill this, when we Bill O'Reilly the shit out of this, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that was actually really good." But if I set them up by downplaying it, they'll be like, "Okay, that was pretty good for having a guest no show and not really having a show prepped out."
All right, listen up. We've got a great show planned for you.
Who gave her powers in this room? Man, who gave her powers? All right, so we are actually going to try and talk about some of the most recent developments in Maricopa County, because that's where the feds have moved on to next, and grand jury subpoena to get records from 2024. We haven't seen the subpoena yet, which is kind of interesting. I'm really like chomping at the bit to see the subpoena and read what the extent of it is. But we've been told it could go, some of the information goes all the way back to 2020. Actually, you know what, Ash? I just thought of this. I have an article that I was reading this morning because I like to read the opposition. And maybe we can read this to kind of set the tone. Good. Hold on one second. Let me get it pulled up here. What time did I start doing all this shit at? There we go. Yes, there we go. Here we go. Found it. Bam, 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 boom. There we go. Again, this is opposition. This is Mockingbird media, establishment media. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Everything's fine. There's fraud everywhere in the government. Except elections. Obviously, there can't be. Elections are too important for there to be fraud. They're way too important for them to. We can't even question whether or not they're real or have anything wrong with them because they're just too important. I love that headline. Arizona election lies have roared back to life. What to know? They're freaking out about this all over the place because we've got Georgia, right? And the big lie is the big lie, guys. The fact that they all of the institutions came together to tell us that elections were legitimate and that all of us were just sore losers that were lying about elections, despite the fact that every time we hold an election, we find out more information about how we should not be holding elections this way because it's a system set up for plausible deniability, fake voters, fake ballots, fake counts, we have to do that video because of the pageantry of democracy bullshit. We did that on Daily. We have to do it on this show. It belongs on this show. So we'll do that in the second part. But the definition of democracy is changing before our eyes as the election lies come roaring back to life. We see here in Colorado with the Tina Peters, there's like four different parts. There's the appeal and the pardon and the clemency and the habeas and all of these things. People are talking more about elections, not just about Tina Peters and due process and what happened to her, which everybody should talk about because it's really messed up, but talking about why she did what she did. And that's kind of a beautiful thing because the court didn't allow her to talk about why she did what she did.
And because of that, that's a major issue on appeal. And because of that, everybody's talking about it now. So what they wanted to stop, right, sideshow from becoming the circus, et cetera, is now the number one topic that people are discussing as it pertains to Tina Peters is, why did she do what she did? Oh, she did what she did because elections are fake, because the primary beneficiaries of elections are the people that run them. And it's a black box. You're not allowed to ask. You're not allowed to question. If you do, you're a threat to democracy. And so all over the Michigan, you can probably talk about stuff going on in Michigan. The folks in Pennsylvania, Audit the Vote, and Leah Hoops and Greg and everybody out in Pennsylvania is on fire. I don't have as many headlines on like Wisconsin or Nevada or anything like that, but I'm sure it's coming, because you cannot suppress the truth forever. And the more they try, the more they look guilty as hell, and the more people pay attention.
Solomon, this week, John Solomon called it. He was on Bannon on War Room, and he called it the Maricopa seizure that they just had there. He called it phase 2 of 5. And so I thought that was really interesting because that's what you would think. Because I mean, obviously,
the obvious one, yeah.
Georgia's definitely phase 1. I mean, that's already is underway, and I've heard some updates on that, and things are moving with that. They do have the mediation. I think it's the 18th, I believe, is when they have the mediation with the judge about whether or not the FBI is allowed to keep the records. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem, to be honest with you, but you never know. You never know. Phase 2 would be what took place in Maricopa. So we could, speculate on 3, 4, and 5. Assuming, Solomon does, I should say it's not an absolute. He says, I believe to be a 5-phase thing. So, I mean, you could be Michigan, could be Pennsylvania, could be Colorado, Wisconsin.
What I'm hoping for. Everybody drink.
Well, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan would make the most sense because of the 2020 swing states. But I would rather see Colorado, to be honest with you, rather than Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been. This
is a total side quest. Do you see my son came into our chat and is asking about golfing at GART? It's bad influencing you right off the bat.
That's because I will be bringing my clubs. What's Caleb's screen name? I don't even know what it is.
Caleb F1.
Oh, it's all the way up. I don't even see it. Huh.
I see it.
Oh, there it is. Caleb F1. Wow. What a generic screen name.
I know.
No anonymity.
Ton of thought into that one.
I know, man. That was tough. Was there already a Caleb Ep?
Oh, that's a good question.
That you had to add the 1? We'll definitely play, man. So yeah, last GART, me and Caleb went out.
Don't skip panels this time.
I didn't skip a panel.
You skipped the Q&A.
No, I didn't skip I was told that you guys moved the Q&A.
No, it was on the schedule, Brian.
No, it changed. You guys changed the Q&A.
I think you just forgot about it. You were looking at the panels that your name was assigned to, and you forgot that the Q&A was one of them because it's all of us, and your name wasn't explicitly on it.
I call bullshit. I think it got moved because of
go to the table.
I'm telling you, it got moved. And Caleb had his first birdie. That was pretty impressive on his own. 300. He hit like a 336-yard drive.
Did he beat you?
No, not even close.
No.
But he had his first birdie.
Yeah. All right. So back to the show. Could be Colorado. Here's hoping. Drink. I don't either. Dry house right now. There's a lot going on. It's not just the 5 states. And, Colorado is a special case because it's the Dominion headquarters. You have have extra stuff that's not just the state running election, but it's stuff that impacts the nation. The test kitchen, we call it. But there's also election stuff happening around the country, right? There's the pressure on the voter rolls, pressure from the feds to get the voter rolls. 29 states last I saw.
Including 6 red states now. 6 red states.
Right. And then there are all the lawsuits coming from the states onto the federal government to resist election integrity and election transparency measures. There's so much going on. But you know what makes me really excited about it? The thing that makes me the most excited about it is that we see activity. So the SAVE Act and the lawsuits pressuring the voter roll cleanup and some of the news in this AFL stuff that we're going to talk about with Arizona points to the voters, right? They are definitely going after ineligible voters, cleaning the rolls, trying to get rid of the fake voter problem, mitigate the fake voter problem. Then you have Clay Higgins, who has the Mail-in Ballot Integrity Act, which is preventing what I refer to as, just dropping ballots from the sky. No unsolicited mail-in ballots can go out. You can't have an opt-out process, essentially, is what it says. And I don't know if there's going to be additional conditions put on things like ballot on demand printers and whatnot, but there should be, hopefully, as part of that, a requirement. So Clay Higgins, if you're listening, update the bill. A requirement that you have to have a denominator, right? You have to know how many ballots are in the ecosystem. That cannot be an ambiguous number that is, a foundation of plausible deniability. So that if those reforms are successful, you have fake ballots largely mitigated. And then the stuff happening in Georgia, the other stuff happening in Arizona with the seizure of the records related to the audit and whatnot, these are things that have to do with the machines and accounts. There are still election lawsuits related to Dominion voting machines. And so watching what's happening, and there's nothing's happened. We're gonna have a midterms, and there's nobody's fixed elections yet. Okay, I get it, right? I'm with you guys, right? We definitely don't have transparency or accountability for fake elections. However, we see fake voters, fake ballots, and fake counts being actively those battlefields that are being actively fought on at this time, and I just don't know how to not be excited about that. I'm very excited about it.
So one of the things you brought up, the SAVE Act, and I was thinking about this because you were saying, people, are starting to see when you look at that news outlet there and the cover that they have to run, like people are going to start questioning this, granted what they've seen since 2020. And I think maybe the kind of the breaking point for the quote unquote normie mind out there could be the SAVE Act and the pushback that we've seen against the SAVE Act. Like, imagine how that looks when you're, a citizen that's looking at something with 89, 85 in, approval from the public in the 80s, in the high 80s. And you've been told for the last 5 years that there's no evidence of widespread election fraud, none of this. And then all of a sudden you see this seizure in Georgia and you're like, well, that happened. That was awarded by a judge. A judge signed off on that search warrant, meaning we finally got somebody that's willing to take a look at this and say what's going on. And then you follow that up. You piggyback off of that with Maricopa, where it's a grand jury, a jury of your peers, average people that looked and said, okay, yeah, we definitely need to take a look at this. At some point, the public has to say, have we been lied to? And hopefully when that happens, that is when they start going out and looking for information outside of the mainstream media. You talked earlier on Wednesday, I think, when we were talking about the paywalls that are popping up on all these mainstream Mockingbird media sites now, because they're drowning. They are literally drowning. They have to scrunch up cash wherever they can get it, and getting somebody to pay, $5 a month to be able to read their news is all they've got left when the government, USAID and USAGM and all that money, settles down and dries up. So yeah, I think at some point the general public, we just need that one thing, like that one piece that comes out of the investigation in Georgia or the investigation in Maricopa that you can actually point to and say, hey, these guys were right on this. The other stuff that they've been saying, maybe we should look into that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And across all of these domains, I do think at the end of the day, it's going to have to come down to criminal trials.
I agree.
But you can't start at criminal trial. I mean, you could. I don't know that it would stick. Yeah. I don't know that it would hold up on appeal. And I don't want a show trial that gets overturned on appeal when it comes to the people that steal elections, that rig elections, that give us fake elections, that have engaged in the whole of government obstruction of elections. I want the convictions to stick.
Well, the other problem with that is, and this goes back to, the Georgia filings that we were reading, and the argument that the state and the county were making against the federal government. These aren't, you can't go in there with a probable cause affidavit and say, hey, this is the person that did this, and this person did this, and this person did that, because we don't know. These, every process of this has not just so many fingers on it, fingerprints on it, but it also has different fingerprints. Like every step of the process is different people. And so, kind of like when we talk about the intelligence agency and how they compartmentalize everything so that this compartment doesn't know what this compartment's doing and this one doesn't know what this one's doing. And when you put it all together, when it starts making its way up the chain and it gets aggregated all together, it paints the picture. And it's the same thing here, where so-and-so that's counting mail-in ballots may not understand why what they did was so, and I'm talking like the ground level foot soldier. I'm not talking about the masterminds of this. They might not understand why what they were doing was such a problem. Like the poll managers that didn't sign the poll tapes. They're like, well, we just, we forgot to do it. I don't believe that for a second, but
it's hard though, isn't it? It's hard to, it's when you get into specific, it's easy to say that, I think, if we're talking in a very macro sense about, well, it's not everybody that's involved in elections that is knowingly engaging in rigged elections, stolen elections, fake elections. When you get down into the specifics of it, though, it's certainly not everybody. And we would never advocate that, everybody involved in elections is a criminal. The big part of this, so centralization creates complexity, and complexity breeds and hides corruption. The way that complexity is managed is with central planning, right? You have the EI ISAC and the MS ISAC and CEIR and ERIC and CISA and the CIS. Yeah, you have these entities, and when I think about the specifics, so I don't think the clerks in Colorado are bad people. I think some of them understand what's happening with elections. I think the majority of them have outsourced their thinking on this to Matt Crane. They have been told to trust the expert. The expert is a lobbyist who runs an NGO that they all like because it does a bunch of their work for them. Right? They get templates and playbooks, and they have a point of escalation and they use it. Right? I send an open records request. Hey, Matt Crane, should we fill this? She's asking for something technical and I don't know what it means. Can you tell me if I should fill this open records request? Why is a lobbyist in the middle of my open records exchange with my government? We don't, because he's the head of the Colorado County Clerks Association.
That's a great point.
That's important. That's our subject matter expert. Anytime Jenna Griswold gives a press conference about anything technical, election technology related, right? He's standing right next to her. He's there to take questions that she can't answer. And spoiler alert, she can't fucking answer any of them because she's retarded.
So let me
just finish the point.
Oh, go ahead.
Finish the point. It's not that they're bad people. It's not even necessarily that they know that they're knowingly and willingly engaging in criminal conduct. It's that they have a statutory authority. They are elected because we elect them to run elections, and the DMV, right, and other stuff. But they're elected officials that are elected to protect our democracy at the local level, to run the elections, to keep the rolls clean, to do all these things. But over time, that authority has been taken from them and given to the state, and they never fought back. And my argument on this is, ever since I finished the point that Jenna is retarded, I finished that. That one stands on its own. The where is the responsibility, right? What did we elect them for if they're basically employees of the Secretary of State's office? I do think there's some liability there. Now, maybe it's, a slap on the wrist and they have to have some sort of humiliation ritual. Okay. Some sort of public shaming for being real stupid and outsourcing your thinking to a bunch of criminals. But there's got to be something. There has to be some awareness of, hey, maybe we shouldn't have taken this job as an elected official and pretended like we were executing these statutes, but in reality, we're having this third-party NGO do all of it.
So on that point, the liability, there's got to be some liability. How does this look when you have, we'll use Georgia as an example and also Maricopa County as an example here. Where does the liability fall for, say, signature verification? We know it was not done in Fulton County. It was not done. We know in Maricopa County, it was highly controversial at best, highly illegal at worst, right? The guy clicking through faster than, faster than you
illegal.
not even scrolling down to actually see the signature, just click, click, click. So, and this is back to my point with the probable cause affidavit. Like, you can't name people yet because we don't know the names, right? You have evidence and you're investigating the who done it, and you're investigating the government in doing so. It's not, so this is a little bit different than, you can't generally say like, hey, we saw a crime over here, we're going to subpoena all your private records as a private entity in order to figure out who committed the crime inside of your entity. You have to build the case and then go in and get that warrant. But with the government, it's a little different because the government's not protected by the same constitutional rights that we are protected with. They don't have the Fourth Amendment. They don't have, access to the rights to the Fifth Amendment as a governing body. As individuals in their individual capacity, they do. But was
that found in Fulton? Because that question was specific in Fulton County, wasn't it? Did they find that?
Well, they cited case law precedent on it, that because going back to
that they don't have the government doesn't have.
The government does not have Fourth Amendment rights, so right. there is no protection from a legal search and seizure in their case.
Obviously that should be true, right? It's obvious. The Bill of Rights is set up to protect the people from the government. So the government having unlawful search and seizure rights when the people, so all of these people call themselves the people, right? Like that's the thing too. The people of the state, the people of the county, the people of the federal government. Which ones aren't allowed to fuck us over?
Well, that's a good question.
It's unanswerable because it varies from state to state, and so does the rules about signature verification. To bring it back to your point, the rules vary state to state. There are guidelines and statutes federally governing the process in the macro sense, but the process is defined at the state level. And Ryan Macias told us it was fine, and he totally wasn't reading. So,
but going back to the kind of the point, in Fulton County, you had probably, I don't know, at least dozens of people that were hired, that were contracted to do the counting. The signature verification. They bought the machines. The Blue Crest sorter machines didn't work, and so they pivoted. They brought in people allegedly. Now that makes it easy, by the way. If they didn't bring people in and they gaslit and said that they did, then that's easy. Whoever was the decision maker on that is the person that's culpable, right? That's the person that
for the lie or for the absence of the signature verification.
For both. I mean, this is making a misrepresentation.
The misrepresentation, right? I definitely agree with you on. I think they have enough plausible deniability to get away with not doing it. And also, who pays back the people for those $1 million machines that they didn't use?
I know. Wait, but let's go back to if they didn't do it, you think they can get away plausible deniability? How they were contracted to do a certain job and they didn't do it?
Who is they?
Whoever was contracted to verify the signatures when they realized the machines weren't going to work, whether they were Happy Faces or Fulton County employees, sworn officials.
That matters, doesn't it? Whether they were Happy Faces or Fulton County employees. And that's where I get to plausible deniability on almost all of these things, because in the public-private partnership, the private part of the public-private partnership allows the government to have plausible deniability. It says, it wasn't us. There was a contract. Oh, they're not the government. They're a private vendor, right? You have so many different things you can pull on because the private companies that are part of the public-private partnership, they don't have statutory requirements. They don't have these things, and they should. Doug Logan did, right? Cyber Ninjas, they immediately, everybody's, oh yeah, you're totally an arm of the government. You have to show us all your communications. We're going to treat you like the government now. But when it's contractor that is, first of all, chosen on a fee competitive bid waiver. So this technology company is so important that we really, really need it. So we can't take it to bid because nobody else has this kind of capability. They're just so great. We really, really need them. But they're just so basic, and they're not an arm of the government. They're a private contractor. They're a private company. We can't possibly. And what are we talking about? Ballot chain of custody. You're talking about ballot storage, as we found out last week, right? You posted about that. There's a lot of stuff coming out about this that it's not just that, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't know this. It's, oh my gosh, they lied to us about this openly, on the record, repeatedly in the press. Oh, it's just like the UPS store. It's just like Staples. We can't open records, run back election services. Well, which is it? Are they really, really important, super special, and have the best technology and nobody else comes close? Or are they just Staples? Can't be both. It is both right now in Arizona. That answer, but both of those answers stand in different proceedings.
Yeah, what Ash is alluding to there in the Just the News article earlier this week about Maricopa and Runbeck, for the first time I saw the claim that Runbeck not only stored but also processed ballots for Nevada. Clark County specifically is mentioned, and that's that's the biggest county in Nevada, right? That's the equivalent almost of a Maricopa County in terms of how their election's going to essentially turn out. And now you've got this tied back, and then on top of that, they were saying that they stored, didn't say processed, but stored ballots for Colorado, California, Utah. And of course, we know that they printed and sent them over to Georgia. And I know they print ballots for a lot of other states. People were like, it's almost like when you talk about, the process, the three things: fake ballots, fake voters, fake counts. The fake voters, you got Eric managing that, 26 states, managing the voter rolls, not
so many parts to it, but yes.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you're kind of getting to the point where we can hammer this down to a handful of NGOs and companies now that need to be investigated. Everybody has a presumption of innocence, of course. Just covering.
I mean, we do have quite the record, the official under oath record on these things. Absolutely, they are innocent until proven guilty, and they should have access to all of their due process rights. And I am not, like the state today, going to advocate that, well, we know they're guilty, so we can just do this, like, perception. Okay, fine, we'll do a little trial, we'll have a little argument, but the jury's gonna get this, and they're not gonna have any option but to decide this in the parameters that we set for them. That's the kind of trial that we get. That's not it's not enough.
Well, so let's go through this article. We went off on a 30-minute tangent, which I guess is good because, again,
I'm telling you, Brian, don't negotiate against us.
All right, so the beginning of this article is basically just saying that, hey, they got the gigabytes. It says on Monday morning, Trump shared an article that claimed the FBI had issued a grand jury subpoena and was getting, quote, gigabytes of electronic data from Maricopa County related to the 2020 election that he had lost in the state. That claim was false. Arizona Senate President Warren Peterson later confirmed on X that the state Senate had received a grand jury subpoena related to information from the Arizona Senate Republicans' partisan audit of the 2020 presidential election. What exact information the Senate had in its possession to give over is unclear, and Peterson has not provided a copy of the subpoena to the Arizona Mirror or to other outlets. And then talk about HSI. Let's get into what they say. How did we get here? The big lie. After Trump's election loss in 2020, a movement began to take shape that started to share the conspiracy theories around the election in several key states, Arizona being one of them. Immediately after the national media outlets projected that Trump would lose Arizona. By the way, it wasn't outlets. It was just Fox News. Far-right law. Everybody else was like, yeah, we don't think that's right. We're not making that call yet. Even Fox News' own hosts were like, are you sure about that five minutes? Are you sure about that 5 minutes?
And they were like, yes, damn it. They already called Florida. Stop it now.
Yep. Far-right lawmakers and protesters began to rally at the Maricopa County Tabulation Center, spreading information. Far-right conspiracy theory influencers like Alex Jones also made appearances, spreading misinformation outside the county tabulation center as election workers continued to tally votes. On election day, conspiracy theories, including Sharpiegate, like they're still calling that a theory. Like they're still calling that a conspiracy theory.
Hey, thanks to Jordan Sather for rating our stream.
That's been proven.
Yeah.
That was one in in the
Has
EIP.
it been proven to have impacted the count? I know it's proven that they did it, but did they prove that it impacted the count? Because that's where they would say theory. But also they would say theory about all of this because they're fraud deniers.
That is one of the few things that between the people that I've interviewed in Maricopa, you know, the people that were participated in the audit that, you know, had NDAs until long after, between that and some of the actual, you know, images and stuff that we've seen from Jovan, I would say yes, that it did impact it. And I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I interviewed another forensic document specialist that was involved in Maricopa County, and I'm pretty sure he also confirmed. Now this was 3 years ago, so again, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure he confirmed that yes, Sharpie Gate was in fact a real thing. So, and we do know, you know, Bill Gates, the chairman of the board at the time, I don't know if he still is or not, testified before the U.S. Congress that they did not use he testified that they were only supposed to use the roll and vote secure paper. And then Ken Bennett, in the same exact testimony, like 10 minutes later, said, no, they used at least 10 different types of paper in that election. You okay?
Which didn't Garrett, what's his face, just tell you that just say on the internet that wasn't true?
Oh, you're frozen. Yes, Garrett.
Can you hear me?
Now you're back. Now you're back. It's so weird. Like now you're back.
When I'm I think it's my bandwidth, because it's when I'm searching for stuff that you usually tell me I'm frozen and I'm not looking at the thing because I'm somewhere else.
Well, now I know when you're not paying attention.
I am paying attention. I'm actually looking for the Sharpie finding from the audit is what I'm looking for.
Garrett Archer is in full-blown freak out mode on X, man.
So
he is in full-blown freak out mode. And, you know, he's been hitting on the Runbeck story. And, you know, I gotta make a phone call to talk about it. But, you know, Professor Clements was out there saying that he's seen the evidence of what took place at Runbeck. He's seen it. And he said, I've seen it. He laid it out and said, come sue me. I'm inviting you guys to sue me for defamation. If you think I'm lying, come sue me. So that is very interesting. I know.
Oh my God. So I just searched up the 2021 audit report. You want to know what this is such bullshit. You want to know what the AI summary says?
It was fake and widely debunked.
No, it's worse than that.
It
says the 2021 Maricopa County election audit led by cyber ninjas confirmed Joe Biden's 2020 victory, showing no evidence of fraud or material inaccuracy. That's false. It's just not true. And that's, I mean, we could do that. I went through on Tuesday's Daily Herald. I went through the timeline of that audit and all of the obstruction, the deleted log files, there's, you know, from a finding standpoint and from a procedural standpoint, what happened when the refusal to comply with the subpoena. They still haven't complied with the subpoena, the Senate subpoena from the 2021 audit. So, you know, Google's AI is trash.
I mean, AI at this point is just the search engine with more results. That's all it is. It takes.
Yeah, but you know what it should do? If you're searching, you know, how to make it valuable. If I'm searching Arizona 2021 Maricopa County, Arizona audit, it should go find that report, consume the report, and give the findings from the report. But it doesn't do that. It gives me what the New York Times says. I
wonder what would happen if you fed it the report and said, give me your summaries on this. Ignore any mainstream reporting. Just read the report.
Keep reading the article. I'll do that real quick.
And tell me what you think. Okay, so we'll pull this back up here real quick. So the Sharpie Gate conspiracy. However, none of them were true. I love that line. However, none were true.
They never have to prove that.
No,
they never have to put up anything about it. It's so frustrating.
Mark Brnovich, the state's Republican attorney general, rest his soul, refuted the claims and said Trump's loss wasn't due to any malfeasance, but because he failed to make his case with voters. Out of the chaos, groups began to form. It started with Stop the Steal, that had white nationalists like Nick Fuentes and one of the leaders of the J6 rally at the Capitol, Ali Alexander.
He's a white nationalist?
No.
Ali Alexander a white nationalist now?
No, far right influencers like white nationalist Nick Fuentes and one of the lead organizers of the J6 rally, Ali Alexander, a right-wing personality and former felon. Didn't he get like arrested for like some child crimes?
Yeah, I don't know, but that whole thing was weird too, because they took the, Stop the Steal, the name of it, and attached it to everyone and anyone doing election stuff at all. And so it was that anybody that was doing anything related to the 2020 election was all of a sudden complicit in whatever the fuck that guy was doing.
Yep.
Bullshit.
Exactly. And by the way, like, why do they pick these people to be the face of these movements? Like, you don't do background checks on people before you're going to, take $1 million movement. I mean, I think at one point they had like 30 or $40 million in the coffer, and you're going to roll out Ali Alexander as the face of this. And he's a felon. He's a, convicted felon. Like, I don't know. I guess my schedule.
I have volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. I'm putting all of these into AI.
Yeah, put them all in and see what it says. It's probably going to be a pretty long report.
Keep going in the article.
Okay. Ali also claimed to have had major help from State Senator Mark Fincham of Prescott, who at the time was serving in the Arizona House of Representatives, representing a district near Tucson. Fincham's support of Stop the Steal was clear in his social media postings, where he used Stop the Steal 62 times. Okay, what the fuck? Get to the point. Fincham was an unindicted co-conspirator. The Senate's audit found no evidence of widespread voter fraud, and in fact concluded that Joe Biden defeated Trump by more votes than the official tally found. Oh, how I wish they would have let Liz Harris's and James Knox and the It Smells Funny, or what was it? What was their website? Smellsfunny.com.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I can't remember what their website was off the top. It was a kind of a strange.
I know they did a great canvassing effort, and they were called like all sorts of names for it.
Their canvassing effort was nuts. I mean,
it was great.
Yeah,
and I know I worked with James for a while to develop out, we did theirs, and then we did ours, and we all worked together to come up with kind of best practice standards for it to share with other people to do. That's the kind of stuff that they had to shut us up and stop us.
Well, and they deliberately kept that out, not because it was illegal or anything like that, as Ashe proved in her lawsuit where she was sued for that, but because if they would have included that information in the report, it would have verified a lot of the claims that Doug Logan and Ben Cotton and everybody else in the audit. It would have put the puzzle pieces together, right? It would have tied everything together. Right now, you just got loose ends. You're like, oh, well, there's plausible deniability still. They can say, well, there's still, yeah, sure, there's extra votes and there's ballots that we don't have any record of and all this other stuff, but there's still no evidence of widespread fraud. But now you bring in and you're like, hey, we've got 30,000 people that their name was used to vote and they didn't vote. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, are we starting to put it all together? Now it goes from an audit and turns into a criminal investigation, but we never got to that step because they just flat out cut the canvassing part out of it. They just cut them off at the legs.
Yeah. So I have the answer. I put all 3 PDFs into my elections workflow. And it says the report list. This is kind of the top line. The report lists 53,000. Oh, it's just in my GPT. Oh, sorry. The important context part is probably where it's going to tell us that it's, fake or whatever. But the report lists 53,305 ballots flagged for potential issues across multiple categories, such as voters appearing to have moved, duplicate ballots, voters who allegedly voted in multiple counties, address mismatches, ballots cast from prior elections.
Okay. Canvas. All of that is the evidence that those claims are backed up by the canvas. That's what I'm trying to say there. Okay, keep going.
74,243 ballots with no record sent is the key part of volume 3. They said it turned out to be a data file misunderstanding.
we'd have to
But,
go back and watch that hearing they did with I think Stephen Nixon was in that
which
hearing.
was a great hearing. But I have I just have this pulled up, so give me a second. I accidentally closed it. I think I navigated to another page while I was in it. But I have the summary of the findings, and I might have the actual.
We should go back and review Doug Logan's hearing that he did in I think it was in Yuma. He did another hearing in Yuma months later.
Okay.
And they did talk about Maricopa, and they talked about the voter rolls. And I remember I've used that many times. I think I wrote an article about it.
Okay. So auditors reported that the county failed to preserve the operating system logs, and that the logs Maricopa County produced after being compelled by the court did not contain the Windows security logs. They were compelled to produce them, and they did not produce them. They also reported that the security logs were set to maintain only 20 megabytes of data, after which logs are overwritten. The oldest log they received was from February 5th, 2021. The oldest log they received was in the audit of the 2020 election was from February 5th, 2021. And again, if you look at, does that pull in? Yeah.
Yep.
If you look at this, you can see February 11th, 462 log files manually overwritten. March 3rd, 37,686 log files manually overwritten. April 12th, another 330 log files manually overwritten. In addition to this, you have Maricopa defying subpoenas over and over and over again. And the AI summary says no material. Everything's fine. 99 more votes, guys. 99 more votes. Biden got 99 more votes.
Washington and South Carolina data found on Maricopa County's server or hard drives.
Yep. So we have those log files overwritten.
The query bomb.
We had, what else did we have? They said that 3 overwrites were not systemic. So they said, oh, well, it's, they're overwritten automatically because it gets full and then it overwrites. These were manually done by people. They were caught on camera and they know who they are. There were referrals made to the AG's office as well. And the premise of this article that I wrote at the time, and Brian, this was back when, just after you and I met each other, the premise of this article was it's the same shit in Mesa County and in Maricopa County. There's the Maricopa County audit, and there was the Mesa County review of the images that was done by several, Walter Doherty and Jeff O'Donnell, and Mark Cook was in there, I think, as well. Bunch of experts that evaluated the images out of Mesa County, and it's the same thing. We see the same standards. We see the same relaxing. We see the same overwritten log files. In Mesa County, we see the swapping of votes. In Maricopa County, Maricopa defied the subpoena so many times they weren't actually able to finish the audit. And that was the other thing that we weren't ever told, that didn't become a main part of the story on this, was that audit never finished because Maricopa refused to comply with lawful subpoenas, and nobody was ever held accountable for it.
Yep. They put them in archives. They archived them. There was a point I was going to make, and I can't remember what the heck it was. Forgot it. All right, it's gone. Jump back into this here. Fincham was an undead co-conspirator. Senate's audit found no evidence of widespread voter fraud. In fact, and concluded that Joe Biden defeated Trump by more votes. The audit itself was full of pro-Trump conspiracy theorists, including QAnon believers and Capitol rioters. And its leader was featured in a conspiracy film directed by a man who believes aliens are behind 9/11. Like they wrote this seriously. Like, when you can't attack the work product, attack the worker.
Which country?
What's that? Aliens from which country? I got you.
I might be able to get on board with this.
One of those was Cleta Mitchell, a close Trump ally who created the Election Integrity Network. Her organization has offshoots across the nation that look into claims of voter fraud. The Arizona chapter is called Easy AZ. That was who was supposed to be on tonight. Run by longtime conservative activist Merissa Caldwell, who was supposed to be here. Caldwell is married to Jeff Caldwell, Maricopa County Recorder Justin Heap's Special Projects Director. Heap, who beat former Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer for the role, voted for election denial bills during his time in the Arizona legislature. I wonder if they thought that because we had Richer on, we were like adversary programming.
Not possible. Not possible. Nobody that is making headlines in elections thinks that Why We Vote is a anti-election denier show. Nobody thinks that. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But Caldwell isn't the only person with election denial connections connected to the audit that is now connected to the government. Heather Honey founded an organization that spread misinformation based on distortions of voter data, and that group was subcontracted by the Cyber Ninjas, the Florida-based firm. Her false election claims in multiple states have later been shared by Trump. Now, Honey holds a senior role in the Department of Homeland Security, overseeing the nation's election infrastructure. Her mentor is Cleta Mitchell, who has been involved in a number of failed court cases attempting to overturn Trump's election losses. Honey was recently on a call with Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, along with election officials across the country, discussing the upcoming midterm elections. After the 2020 election, the conspiracy theorists once again descended upon the state. Many of the lies were now fueled by a debunked film by conservative activists called 2000 Mules. I'm skipping around here. The film led to a wave of ballot box watchers in the state, some armed.
Who was armed?
I don't know. That's piggybacking off of the claims they made against you guys.
Yeah, they just say that shit. That was never true. There was never any evidence of that, but they said it to justify atrocities against us. And again, nobody ever gets in trouble.
Right. The film led to a wave of ballot box watchers in the state, some armed, who were later revealed to be connected to the extremist anti-government Oath Keepers. Just a militia, guys. Just a militia.
Throw it all in. Throw every slanderous allegation you can into this article.
Right. And another extremist militia group. Then after the election results came in, challenges began. All those challenges were thrown out of court, but the quote-unquote experts in those cases are resurfacing. The FBI affidavit in Georgia was based in part on allegations by Clay Parikh, who testified as an expert witness in failed gubernatorial and congressional candidate.
They put expert in scare quotes.
Yeah, but that's also false because Arizona does not qualify expert witnesses. Remember that part?
But the fact that they would put Clay Parikh in expert, I bet did they put Ryan Macias as expert in scare quotes expert?
Of course they're not gonna mention Ryan Macias in this.
Yeah, you really shouldn't. It is not a good look.
Parikh has worked with Mike Lindell, who has faced millions in damages for false statements he has made regarding elections, and Lake's lawsuit was ultimately dismissed for lack of evidence. Parikh is now a special government employee of the Trump administration. By the way, that's absolutely effing bonkers that they because again, this is the problem with reporters, Ash, is they don't actually know the story. They know a story and they want to tell you a story, and they want to tell you a story that's going to bolster their own personal narrative, their own personal agenda. Because if you wanted to, you could have gotten into the details on this about how the judge, they listed, with evidence, 10 claims in the election. The judge said, well, you can only litigate 3. I'm only going to let you litigate 3 of these, right? I mean, how much more evidence did you need than Eric Spickine's testimony, Clay Parikh's testimony, catching Scott Jarrett in a lie, and then showing the video of the guy checking off, the signatures in less than 2 seconds, like he was in The Simpsons when they put the pecker on the little pecker bird thing on the keyboard and just pressing yes, 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 yes. That's what that guy was doing.
How about, I love democracy, and this is my testimony, and it is my testimony, and nobody else would ever tell me what to say.
Excuse me, sir. Are you reading?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Please do not look like you're reading. Carry on.
My testimony is my testimony, and I like it, and I think that it's the right testimony, and nobody has ever told me what to say. Wait a second. It seems like you're reading. The judge says, what does the judge say, Brian? If you accuse him of reading, if you stop these proceedings one more time and suggest that this fine man who is in the other room on the other side of this wall and could totally be in here on the stand, but isn't for some reason that nobody ever explained, that if you suggest one more time that he's reading, I'm going to dox your time. I'm going to deduct time from you for pointing out that the Hamburglar is absolutely reading from his screen.
Also, the call is coming from inside the house.
So that's why I said, it's like the guy, why didn't he have to be in the courtroom on the stand? He was in the courthouse.
Yep. He was in the janitor's closet or something like that, it seemed like. Yeah.
We cannot have real elections until we have accountability for how fake this shit has been.
Yeah. Agreed.
And just so everybody knows, I put the links to all 3 volumes of the Cyber Ninja Report, as well as the link to my article with the timeline in the comments of the show. So if you're watching on replay and you want to see that stuff, it's not just lost in chat because chat goes away. It's in the comments.
All right. Lake's lead attorney, Kurt Olson, is also heavily featured in the affidavit. Olson was sanctioned by the Arizona Supreme Court for statements he made in that case that were false. I fucking hate that so much right there. With all the shit that we've watched and nobody gets sanctioned. Nobody in your case has been sanctioned. Granted, it's still pending appeal and all that, but nobody, when they coached a witness to lie and the witness told the judge that she was coached to lie, that judge should have immediately sanctioned them at least, at the very least.
And the district court did deny sanctions. So the district court denied our motion for attorney's fees, which was attorney's fees, costs, and additional sanctions. And that's on appeal. So we have, I don't know if everybody knows this, but I have 2 cases in the 10th Circuit. The case numbers are 24-13-28 is the actual appeal. The plaintiffs appealed our victory, and we're fighting against that. I'm pro se in that. I'm still fighting that one myself. It's fully briefed. Any minute we should get an answer in it. We're waiting. And usually we get some, it's been a little hit or miss in the court files in the run-ups to GART for the past few. But it's not uncommon for me to get something at my case when we're at GART. Happens a lot. And but the other one, 25-1111, is about that specifically. It's about the failure to sanction when the witness admitted on the stand that she was coached by the plaintiff attorneys to lie.
Yep. Okay. So hey guys, got some
30 minutes
news. We got 30 minutes left, and let's welcome to the show Marissa Caldwell of Easy AZ. Marissa, how you doing?
Good. I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't realize you were telling me East Coast time, and I'm in Arizona. And so I had scheduled it for 3 hours later than when your show actually was going to be on. So my big apologies for that.
No worries. We actually shot from the hip. We Bill O'Reilly'd it, and we were doing excellent. We actually just read the Phoenix New Times where they were talking about you and Easy AZ and Cleta Mitchell. We had her on 2 months ago.
Is this a recent article or an old goodie?
This is this article is from March 12th, so yesterday.
Wow, I didn't even know that they brought me back in. I'm so glad that I'm popular with them.
Right here. One of those was Cleta Mitchell, a close Trump ally who created the Election Integrity Network. Her organization has offshoots across the nation that look into claims of voter fraud. The Arizona chapter is called Easy AZ, run by longtime conservative activist Merissa Caldwell. Caldwell is married to Jeff Caldwell, Maricopa County Recorder Justin Heap's Special Projects Director. Heap, who beat former Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer for the role, voted for election denial bills during his time in the Arizona legislature.
Election denial bills?
That's
what was
hilarious.
That, like voter ID?
Yes, it was things like chain of custody.
Oh, yeah.
Things like chain of custody, standard supply chain stuff, like Amazon doesn't work if you don't have chain of custody, but somehow that's election denialism.
Election denialism bills is hilarious. I also just want to be on the record disavowing Brian comparing us to Bill O'Reilly.
No. That's F it. We'll do it live. That's what I know
exactly what you're saying. I still you said what you said, and I said what I said.
Fight me. Marissa, so let me ask you, since we only have about half an hour left, are you more comfortable with that time frame? Are you more comfortable talking about what's going on right now with the recorder versus the Board of Supervisors, or would you like to go over your victories with AFL in the election, the voter rolls?
I think it makes sense for me to just do a very short, brief overview of those election victories that we've had, and then bring you to today and what we're fighting on today, and then also bring it back to what's happening with the SAVE Act next week, because we had some good news come out today.
Okay.
And explain what that means, especially for your listeners across the country, and also help them to understand what is, what we've done here in Arizona is something that's completely duplicatable across the country. And I'm a huge fan of Cleta Mitchell and the Election Integrity Network. I actually lead one of their what they call as PAG groups. The group that I lead is called Authenticate the Voter. And so there's work that everyone can do in their own jurisdictions to improve election integrity. And it's just a matter of just getting started. So the other funny thing just about the Phoenix News Times article that you just showed is it's clear that they don't actually know what we do. Because we're not actually, none of our cases have actually been technically looking for election fraud, except for the first work that we did. And that was back in 2021. So if you want, I can just jump into a quick overview for you of the work we've done and then where we are today. And then you can go after me with all the questions that you have as to what's going on. So the way that I originally got started in election integrity is because my professional background is in supply chain and logistics in the food service industry. And so I did that for about 20 years. I worked for large national trucking companies. I worked for one of the biggest food service distributors, which got bought out a couple of years ago. I worked for technology companies, building systems for that. And so my main role was working on master data management, which is essentially what is the product and making sure that there's chain of custody that follows that all the way through. And so when I had taken a break from that and started working for my local councilman, Sal DeCiccio, back in 2018 and 2019, and I was just doing constituent services. It's because I wanted to learn more how government works, and more of on the side, I volunteered to help girls in crisis pregnancies and domestic violence situations. And so I kept getting all these calls from our constituents saying there was problems with their voter registration records, problem with their ballots, problems at voting locations. And I was like, what is this madness? Like, why are we getting all of these calls? And that was in like 2018 when no one was really paying attention to it. If you remember the Democrats back then, they were upset about the machines. They were upset about Dominion. And so I was like, well, I mean, if we're getting calls on this, maybe there's something to it. Maybe we need to look into it. So the recorder at the time, which was Adrian Fontes, who's now currently the Secretary of State, he put out a call that they had so many ballots that the signatures kicked out, and they had so many ballots that couldn't go through the tabulators that they needed to duplicate the ballots. And so I said, okay, I'll come and work in the evening and see what's going on and see if I can figure anything out. And in there, I found that the software they were using, which is Runbeck software, has an algorithm. It's not AI, but it's kind of, a lot of people would think that it's AI, but it basically suggests voter intent to the duplicators. It's a bipartisan team that does the work, a Republican and a Democrat. So the fail-safe is that they assume that the Republican Democrat will agree, and therefore it must be truthful and accurate. They don't, though, actually validate who's the Republican and who's the Democrat, by the way. They just say, raise your hand. And if you brought a friend, you can work together.
Oh, wow.
And yes.
If you brought a friend, you can work together?
If you brought a friend and you're different parties, you can work together. Well, who's like, how long have you had to be different parties? Could you just change your voter registration before you showed up? Type of a thing. And so we go in there and I'm looking at the screen, and I remember I'm coming from my professional supply chain technology background. And I'm looking at the screen, and every once in a while it's pulling up and saying, hey, this is who we think the voter voted for. And I was like, but that's clearly not who the voter voted for. And the interesting thing was the only time I saw that occurring was when it was someone that voted for a Republican and the system was saying it should be a Democrat. And so you're not allowed to have phones or anything while you're in there. And so I couldn't document that is what was occurring. So I was blown away. I was like, what's going on? And so I asked the manager there, and she said, oh no, what you're looking at is that, she said, you're just, there's more than one people that are looking through. Wait, I'm sorry. They said something different, but she said, basically the system's just trying to tell you what they think is who's the right person to vote for. So I'm like, well, it's wrong. It's broken. So I think, okay, it's just a technology issue. I go to the board of supervisors meeting, I testify, and these are people that I knew at the time. Like I knew Bill Gates, the supervisor, chairman, who became chairman of the board of supervisors. And so I was like, well,
Knew you, right?
how?
He knew
Yeah.
you.
He knew me. He
Any
knew
issues
me. He knew
prior
me
to
from the
this?
food service industry.
Right, but any issues with him? Any baggage or drama?
No, at that time we had no baggage.
Yeah.
He was actually going to appoint me when he was on the city council, appoint me to a committee there. So I was a supporter of his. So I just thought I could go in there and I'd say, hey, you guys know I'm from food service. You know I'm a supply chain professional. So what I'm going to tell you is credible information. And so I go and I tell them, I say, look, there's this algorithm that's suggesting the wrong candidate that the person voted for. And it's doing it like 3 out of 9 times, 3 out of 7 times, something like that. I couldn't keep track of it because you're not allowed to have paper with you. And I said, but it's definitely wrong. And it's clearly, obviously wrong. And me and the Democrat both agreed that it was giving us the wrong information. And so the Adrian Fontes, the recorder at the time, said, no, you totally have wrong information. What's happening is that you're seeing what a previous team validated. And that's what the previous team said. And I said, so your system is set up to have one team say one thing, then it switches to another team and they can just switch the vote. And then what happens after that? Well, a third team then would look at it and they could switch the vote again. And I said, well, that's even worse because you have some people in there that are flipping votes.
3 out of 9 times.
Right.
Yeah.
The response. Right. And I was like, so you can just volley
33% of the time the votes are flipping, but don't worry about it. It's fine.
Correct. And I'm like, and I was like, but you could just like volley, like this is a legal way to change someone's vote. And so I was like, well, Bill Gates is a reasonable person. So I'm sure he's going to be concerned about this and want to jump right in to fix it. And so when I reported that, what happened was they no longer allowed public testimony when you do a election certification. And then all of a sudden I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And all of a sudden my former abuser's ballot and election mail starts showing up to my house.
What?
That man tried to kill me many times. He threatened my life many times. It was a very violent scenario. And so I contact the recorder's office and I say, hey, this person is an abuser. I have a order of protection against him. Like, can you help me? Because you're giving him a reason to come see me. And that's putting my life in danger. Yeah. And the response from Fontes's office was that there was nothing they could do. I had to go and talk to him myself to get it changed. I talked to lawyers. I talked to everyone to try to get it fixed. It didn't get fixed until Stephen Richer came into office. So my response then back in that 2018, 2019 timeframe was, well, essentially, if they're trying to murder me over being a whistleblower, over what I'm thinking is a software glitch, like what's really going on with our elections? That's what caused me to just jump in and keep going. So fast forward to 20.
Well, hey, don't fast forward yet. Pause there, because there's, in my opinion, based on the information available that I've heard, there is no way that's an accident, right? That's just something that organically started happening after you became an election denier in their eyes. All of a sudden, you like you said, there's a reason for someone you have a protective order against to come start seeing you. The intention of that, I would imagine, is to make you stop.
Yep.
You're a threat because you actually witnessed something. You actually have firsthand personal knowledge to what you thought was something they didn't know about. So you went and told them, but the reaction tells you, it seems like they sort of maybe did know about it, or at least they're not interested in dealing with it. But the fact that then you have that happen, these fucking people need to go to prison. And this is why I say we cannot have real elections until there is accountability for how fucked up and fake they've been because of what happened to her.
Yep.
Because of what happened to Marissa. And this kind of stuff is happening because they are a mafia. And I'm so sorry. And thank you for keeping going, because they wanted to shut you up. They were trying to intimidate you and shut you up.
Correct. They wanted to shut me up. And, at first I was kind of terrified, but also I recognized, like, I'm already in government. I'm working for the councilman. And so I had already started building relationships with legislators and whatnot. So I was like, I'm not shutting up. This isn't just a glitch. Like, why would you do this to me? So I thought, I'm going to keep looking at this. So when I ran in 2020, I was asked to run for Phoenix mayor. And by the chair at the time of the AZ GOP, which was Dr. Kelly Ward. And so when I worked with Dr. Kelly Ward, she said, yeah, we need you to run for mayor. We have the lockdowns, we have BLM riots, blah, blah, blah. So I was able to get access to the voter rolls. I was able to see then that my former abuser's address never changed back to my house.
Whoa.
And there was no explanation as to how his mail was coming to my house. I finally got Fontes to reply on the record on X once I saw that. And he had said something like, his mom is a victim of domestic violence, so he knows how bad this is, but he's restricted by the current laws, blah, blah, blah. So Stephen Richer gets elected to Maricopa County Recorder. I helped Stephen get elected because he swore up and down that he was for election integrity. I was one of the sources that did the work on his election integrity report to demonstrate that he would support election integrity. He gets into the office, he fixes whatever the problem is. No election mail from my former abuser ever came to my house again.
So they had the capability to fix it. Fontes
correct. They had the capability to fix it the whole time. So from there,
someone made that decision.
Correct.
Someone made that decision to psychologically terrorize you. That's
correct.
Fucking terrorism. What
correct.
They did to you is to keep you in a position of fear, to make you stop your advocacy. This is a violation of so many civil rights laws. Mm-hmm. And you should
I mean, and it's fraud. It's election fraud.
Yeah.
And to the other point, set aside like the bad situation with my former abuser, but just take all of that aside. Let's just say he's a really great guy and everything was just like we just aren't together anymore. Where did his ballot go? How did he vote?
Yeah.
Why was his ballot like that? Means that he was denied from voting.
Yeah.
And there's no legal reason to deny him from voting, right? So there's that set aside also. So fast forward from there. People are getting frustrated with the Stephen Richer, blah, blah, blah. People are mad about the 2020 election. So I decide I'm going to step in and help with that effort also. And so Liz Harris had started an effort to identify if people that were dead were voting. So I kind of took over that effort, did an audit of essentially of their work and expanded it. And so we looked at about 4,000 voters and we compared the data to a system called LexisNexis, which is kind of like a soft credit check system that would at least identify if they think someone's dead. And so we compared it to that. We found that about 10% of the voters we looked at voters over 90 years old. We found about 10% of them LexisNexis said were dead. And so they were likely deceased. And then about 10% of those likely deceased people were people that had turned in a ballot. So I gathered all that information, gave it to the Attorney General's office. They reviewed it. They were able to confirm one voter that they were able to, that admitted that, yes, they did sign the ballot for their dead mother. So we get one indictment of voter fraud. And so that is why Phoenix News Times says that I'm a voter fraud hunter. But that wasn't that. I did that because I wanted to prove that it is not folklore. Maricopa County said it was folklore that they were sending ballots to dead people and that they were getting voted. So I proved to them, no, it's not folklore. You have a problem here. Fast forward on to, but to me, that was a legitimate thing. The Attorney General investigated. It was an indictment. That person said they were guilty. It went through the legal process. So at that point, you would think, okay, maybe Arizona election officials will say there's some legitimacy to this. Like there was a legal, lawful process that happened with it. 2020, there was a lot of anomalies I found in that election. I produced a report. If you go to marissacaldwell.com, you'll see it. Fast forward a few years later, we keep working on election integrity. I create an organization called easyaz.org. We start working with America First Legal. We do a few different I think we did 3 lawsuits. One of them that we had a big victory on has to do with forcing all 15 counties in Arizona to settle, that they had to start initiate the process with DHS to start cleaning the voter rolls, identifying if there's non-citizens and cleaning them off. That was a huge victory. The way that the settlement occurred was Stephen Richer, the Maricopa County recorder that I'd helped get elected. He turned on us. He flipped on us. He started protecting the people that are the fraud deniers, and he wouldn't settle with us. He tried. He basically tried to stop the lawsuit from happening. Recorder Justin Heap gets in and he says, "All you're asking is for us to send a letter." Yeah, okay, we'll send a letter. And then all the other counties followed. There was 2 other counties that had already done it. So we got a settlement with all 15. The other lawsuit that we won was in the 2024 election. They identified that there was first it was 99,000 voters that hadn't shown proof of citizenship that were longtime voters. They expanded it to 218,000 when there was a news piece that there was a non-citizen that was legally here that said, "I didn't register to vote. The system has me registered to vote, and they won't let me cancel my voter registration record."
Mm.
We also found someone through a volunteer they called someone, and that person told them they are a citizen of France. They should not be registered to vote. They are here legally. They don't know why they're registered to vote. The glitch that's causing that still hasn't been addressed. But what we did do is we got Fontes to have to provide proof of provide all the public records showing what was happening that. And now that process is working through the counties. And Recorder Heap, just on the day that Kristi Noem did the press conference in Maricopa County, he did a press release later on saying that they found, I'm going to get these numbers a little bit wrong, but they reviewed 60,000 of those voters so far. And that they found, I think it was 137 that were flagged as non-citizens, and I think around 60 or 30, somewhere between 30 and 60 of them had cast a ballot.
Let me just real quick, and I just want to clear this up so the audience understands this. Arizona is a pretty unique state because when you register to vote, if you're supposed to show proof of citizenship, and if you don't show proof of citizenship, you can still register to vote, but you're under the federal only ballot. We heard a lot about this in 2020. Am I correct on that?
You're mostly correct. You're almost all the way correct. We did do another law change.
That's usually where he's at. Yeah.
We did one law change that most of it was accepted by the U.S. Supreme Court. And the part that the U.S. Supreme Court allowed us to do is to say, for someone to register to vote without their proof of citizenship, they must have registered on the federal only voter registration form. So if someone registers to vote using the Arizona form and they did not provide documentary proof of citizenship, by law, they are supposed to be denied from being registered to vote. They can be sent a letter saying that's why, but they are supposed to then either provide their proof of citizenship or re-register federal only on a new form. If a recorder registers them as federal only without doing the new form, they are breaking the law.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up before you moved on.
And how many times have they been prosecuted for that?
Never.
So it's a new law. So not yet. And so the process right now, Maricopa County, they had to send out letters for those 137 voters. And the voters that actually voted, showing as non-citizen, they have 35 days from whenever that letter was sent to provide their documentary proof of citizenship. If there's no reply or they say, "I'm not a citizen," then, and they voted, they for sure have the ability to proceed with legal action against them. Yeah. If they didn't vote, but they were registered to vote, then it's a different type of investigation because we know the system has a glitch that's having people register to vote without their consent.
So we can maybe segue into the SAVE Act. We've got about 10 minutes left, but I do want to ask a question real quick on Arizona. And to be honest with you, I'm more of a machine and ballots guy than I am the voter rolls. So I know broadly about this, but we kept hearing stories after the 2020 election about how Maricopa County and Arizona as a whole would all of a sudden have, an injection of 30 or 40,000 voters put on the rolls right before the election and then removed almost immediately following it. Can you expand on that and talk about maybe a little bit about how that could have been significant and how the votes were cast?
Yeah.
Is there anything on that?
Yeah, so it's a pattern that I started tracking when I ran for Phoenix mayor. When I ran for Phoenix mayor, all of a sudden, Phoenix itself had an extra 100,000 voters get added to the voter rolls in about 90 days.
Right.
And I was like, how does that happen? How do you even accurately process something like that? Now, since that time, the laws have changed. And so there's stronger processes that they have to go through, but it still happens. Like in 2024 in Maricopa County, the recorder's office, now fired, disgraced Stephen Richer, reported that radical left groups dropped off full garbage bags of 90,000 voter registration forms, like the day of the deadline to register to vote. And when I was talking to the staff in the office throughout that election period, they were telling me that they were going to have a hard time even processing through all of them before election day. And they actually had to discard 40,000 of the voter registration forms because they were in such bad disarray. Unfortunately, that situation can still happen. And so the second part of that, as far as them being removed from the voter rolls, is there's only two ways that they can be removed. One is if they're identified as an actual non-citizen. Two, if they're returned, like if they send a ballot by mail and there's a return that comes back from USPS, then they have to be marked as inactive. And then they have to wait 2 whole election cycles, 2 federal election cycles, so a midterm and a general, basically, before they can remove them from the voter rolls.
Even if they're dead.
If they're dead, then they are supposed to be removed immediately, but it has to, the law is squishy on that. They won't just accept like a obituary. It has to have like some type of like health document saying that they're dead. Like they won't even accept like a family's affidavit. Like they have to get like the death certificate.
Which is so messed up. I mean, like, just imagine your loved one passes away and you get a ballot when you're like, seriously, like, please stop sending me this mail. It's painful for my family. Sorry, Spetzel made me laugh. And the state's like, no, sorry, we're going to keep sending it to you.
Right. And every cycle, I get calls from people saying, my loved one just died and I got a ballot for them in the mail. What do I do? And then I have to walk through the process with them, with the recorder's office, as to how to solve it, because our law isn't really clear on a really solid process to make that happen. So the thing is the more I'm learning about the way our elections operate, and like I just observed at Maricopa County for the small local Tempe election, I'm learning that it's worse than I ever thought it was. And most of the things that people think that are happening that are bad, maybe it's not happening exactly the way that conspiracy theorists are saying it's happening, but there's definitely something there. There's definitely some smoke. There's definitely problems that are occurring. And it might not be exactly the problem that's being described, but oftentimes I'm finding there's a problem that exists. And it's something that opens the election up for fraud. And it's something that creates that there's a valid reason for it to create distrust in our elections. And an example of that is going back to Maricopa County, when after Recorder Justin Heeb announced that they were doing this cleanup process of non-citizens, the very next day, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors found this antiquated, unconstitutional law, and they started proceedings to try to remove him as recorder.
Yeah, we definitely got to get you back on to talk about that story there.
There was 3 things that he did to secure our systems, and they have been actively trying to remove him for those 3 things. They also changed the agreement. Stephen Richer changed the agreement between the recorder and the Board of Supervisors when he left. And there's a number of statutory duties that they've taken away from Recorder Heeb. The 3 things he did was started cleaning non-citizens off the voter rolls, removed, including cleaning the inactives off the voter rolls. He fixed the signature verification system, so it's actually possible to identify signatures that are inconsistent with the voters' actual signatures. And then he changed the program that addresses vulnerable voters so that they could no longer be taken advantage of, and they can only be registered to vote with consent.
Didn't he also bring more access? Like, instead of when you're an observer, instead of just observing the process, you can actually watch what's fundamentally what's going on the screens themselves?
Correct. You can actually walk up. You have to, like, there's a certain amount of feet of distance. You can't be like right on them. But he set up the room so that because it no longer has the private information of the voter, you only see the signature and their previous signatures. It no longer says what party they are with. It used to say the party that the voter was. It no longer says that. So now people can walk around because there's no like private information that's being shared. It's just signatures. It goes much faster. It also goes through on average like 3 to 5 different validations. So it's more than one person looking at it. Before it was just one person looking at it. And so for someone to go to curing, it's because multiple people agreed that signature does not match, is inconsistent with the voter signature, and there's a problem that needs to be validated.
Okay, so we'll talk off air, but hopefully we can get you back on maybe next Friday Eastern time.
Yes, Eastern time. Sorry about that.
Peter Tickton confirmed for next Friday.
Oh, okay.
Whenever you have a free time, I'm happy to come on the show.
We will definitely have you back. Yeah.
So let's get into the SAVE Act, and you have an update on that.
Yes. So today, if you're following Senator Mike Lee's post today on X, they have gotten an agreement on the Senate side to do a quasi talking filibuster process. It's not as good as I would like to have us there. However, it does give a chance for us to have a full on, at least the talking part of the filibuster part. And so they're going to have a lengthy filibuster talking process. And then right now it's the agreement is that they will then still move to a cloture vote, which still requires a 60 threshold. And so that doesn't give us a path to necessarily make the Save America Act law, except the one thing that I know about a lot of the people in the Senate and actually in all levels of government is that they are, not to say that they're lazy people, but a lot of them are pretty lazy. They don't like doing that extra work. Yeah. And they certainly don't want to be made to be looked like fools. And so you have a lot of people in the uniparty, both on the right and the left, that they honestly don't want the voter rolls cleaned because they rely on those gaps that we've discussed this last half hour to be able to get elected. Yeah. And that is the truth of it. Like when I did that duplication process, it was pretty clear that's what's happening. And so they don't want people to have to show proof of citizenship in order to vote. There's very few states that actually require that they actually check for the documentary proof of citizenship. Arizona, by the way, even though it's required, they don't let the recorders see the documentation. They only let recorders look at a checkbox in the system and have to trust that the documentation is there and accurate. And so they don't want this to pass and so we, the people, have rallied and have put them in a position that that the people are the boss of the government. And so this is a hallmark moment in American history that we're going to at least get a quasi talking filibuster. We cannot let off the gas. People need to let their elected officials know, tell the senators, we want a full talking filibuster, period.
Amen. This should be one of the most eye-opening moments in modern American history for the American people to see. I've never seen a bill that has almost 90% approval across the board, and the Senate is still like, no, we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely historic. Just the fact that to Senator Mike Lee's credit, just the fact that we're going to have the talking part of the filibuster is historic. This hasn't happened for decades. But when you look at a lot of the great things that have happened in American history as what's regarded as great nowadays, a talking filibuster is what got it done. And so the fact that it's literally the point of why the Senate is supposed to exist. And so they've abdicated their duties to make this fictitious 60 vote threshold, and it should never have happened. And I'm glad that this has all come to light because I didn't even know the history on this. I just thought that's the way it was. And so it's important that that the citizens learn our history and start fighting for the people to be the boss of their government. That is how it's supposed to work. The reason why we the people is so big in the Constitution is that the people are supposed to be the boss. We're supposed to have citizen-led government, and the Senate hasn't done that for a long time. So this is a tiny mark to get to a new day where our government is backed by we the people. And so we should applaud it, but not slow down, not let our foot off the gas. Now it's the time to rally even harder, peacefully. and get it done. Get election integrity done. This is super simple. It should be a yes vote for everyone.
Yeah.
Amen. Marissa, we got to wrap up here, but where can people follow you online? And we will get Marissa back on and do a full show and go through all of the fun stuff out in Arizona. But where can people follow you online?
So if you go on to X, I'm at Marissa Caldwell. You can see the spelling of the name, and then subscribe on our website, easyaz.org, and then easycivics.org is where we post the news that's going on. And we focus heavily on election integrity. So I'm so glad that this is the topic we're talking about today with you.
We do it every Friday
The
night.
show. That's what we talk about on the show.
All shows are why we vote now.
All shows are why we vote now.
Amen. I love it.
Marissa, so the first time I ever spoke to elected officials about election fraud, I had the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force show up to my house 6 days later. We get through. What they did to you is so unbelievably despicable that I'm struggling to control my emotional reaction to it. There must be justice for this, and thank you so much for not letting them beat you, for not giving up, for not shutting up when they put the screws down and did what should be there should be very visible justice for what they did to you.
Well, thank you for that. I'm a good friend of Carrie Lake, and maybe we can talk on the next show what they tried to do to me with Carrie Lake, because they tried to throw me in prison over that scenario. But I will never stop. I will never stop fighting. As long as there's breath in me, I will work to secure our elections, because I know what they're supposed to look like, because I helped create some of the chain of custody and supply chain standards. So they can't lie to me. And so I'm never going to give up. And thank you guys for keeping this as the topic of the show. It is the most important issue for us to solve in our lifetime.
100%.
For our kids and their kids, because it's the mechanism for consent. Without it, we're not there. Without election integrity, without real elections, they're all illegitimate.
Yes, you have no consent of the governed. We do not have sovereignty. We do not have a constitution until we gain that back. And it's a line that we should have never abdicated. And so I'm glad that there's so many people that are standing in the gap peacefully to get it done.
Amen. All right, Merissa Caldwell, thank you so much for joining. We'll get you back on. We appreciate that. Follow her on X at Merissa Caldwell and easyaz.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. I look forward to our next conversation.
Eastern time. No,
Eastern time.
We're just glad you're okay. We both were like, man, that's
right.
not something that would happen normally. So I hope nothing bad happens. So we're glad you're okay, and we'll see you next time.
Perfect. Sounds good.
And give our best to Clerk Heath.
Yeah. So let's just real quick. We have a few Rumble rants. Sabrobadu said, my son and daughter-in-law were issued Sharpies in Maricopa County. Both of their votes were canceled according to the Arizona state records. Yeah. Not surprising. We've talked about that. Doc from Amish, PA. Love the show. That was a safety brief this morning. Thought it would be obvious. All love, no salt. We're just kidding. He left me a very veiled, threatening message, Rumble rant this morning. That's how I took it.
Now's not the time.
In a totally joking manner. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate that. Myron 54. I came in late, but really appreciate the work you guys do pulling all of this together. Keep up the great work. God bless.
Oh, thank you, Myron. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you so much. And this show is important.
Yes, it is.
We're going to keep doing it. We can't have real elections until we're honest about how fake they are. And there's accountability for that.
And since all shows are why we vote, make sure you tune into Badlands Book Club, because we're talking about stolen elections on Badlands Book Club. And
which is getting interesting, that whole saga.
Yeah,
tune in Tuesday for more.
We're pissing people off. Let's just say I got a phone call, and we'll leave that at that. I got a phone call yesterday. You can't stop me. You can't silence me.
There's a lot of phone calls going around. A lot of people being triggered by Badlands these days. It's
very interesting phone call. All right, so we're going to end the show. We're going to end the show with my favorite clip ever of the election.
Do we do all the sponsors?
Yeah.
Do we do soft disclosure?
We'll do soft disclosure real quick.
Why are you groaning about soft disclosure?
Kill me if I don't.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bottle discounts.
We forgot to mention
Tiny Bright.
Yeah, softdisclosure.com. Use promo code TinyBright. I love that so much, especially the part where he's like running, you know, his little legs are running. But you support 6 small American small businesses when you purchase, with every purchase of Soft Disclosure. It is bringing our supply chains back home and sourcing from American farms, American ranches, and we're pretty proud of it. You should be too. The skincare is it's nutrients for your skin and changing people's skin. And just look at Brian's beard. Seriously, I mean it's a thing of beauty. Glorious. Everybody should be getting Soft Disclosure. Softdisclosure.com. Promo code TinyBright. And Flying Storm gifted 10 subs to the channel.
Oh yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. So
okay, so we got to get out of here. Stay tuned. Spellbreakers has probably already started, so go check out Matt Trump right now. We'll rate you over there. I am going to play the outro of my favorite clip of all time. This is I think he's former now election day director of election day voting and emergency voting in Maricopa County, Scott Jarrett. We'll see you guys all next time. God bless.
So what this plan does is that we had 229 polling locations available prior to the plan. And then after the board's vote, I went and performed an analysis to make sure that all those voters had 151 vote anywhere vote centers. This now, we're taking this from those voters had 41 voting locations before these 151. Now they have 151 vote locations that they can choose from. And then with that, we're also going to be providing those voters with the options and the ability to, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, first, I want to remind the public that the ever-changing world